Welcome back inside the Villanova Basketball Report. It's time for V's and O's here as we take to the whiteboard and discuss something that happened in the Villanova basketball week that was good, bad, and different. And this week we're going to give you a little bit of both. Let's start with the good. Villanova has changed its offensive mindset entirely. And let's take it back to about 3 weeks ago where Colin Gillespie was the primary ball handler for this Villanova team, and he'd take the ball up. Phil Booth would be over here with the floor spaced. Eric Paschal could be anywhere from there to running the baseline and being over here. He can take the ball off the dribble so well, and he was playing off the ball for the vast majority of the year. Maybe it was Joe Cremo that was over here. Unfortunately for him, Jahvon Quinerly was over here on the bench. And Villanova was operating with Colin Gillespie as the guy primarily running the show. Demir Cosby-Roundtree was getting more time. And this was a very common lineup that you'd see, perhaps taking out a guy like Cremo and putting in Saddiq Bey in his place. So that was kind of the lineup that Villanova was running out there. Colin Gillespie able to get through to the basket and really would create opportunities off the dribble when he got right here. Instead of going up to the hoop, he'd kick it out to one of these guys. He'd feed Demir Cosby-Roundtree, and that worked, we'll say, okay, with Colin Gillespie running the show for Villanova. What we've seen over the last few weeks, and what I think Jay kind of knew but now is starting to realize is a little bit more efficient, which is a little counterintuitive, is Colin Gillespie certainly can still bring the basketball up the floor, but it's going to be Phil Booth over here coming up the floor and taking a handoff right around here as Colin overlaps. So now they've kind of switched spots. Phil Booth is now going to start the offense with about 20 seconds left on the shot clock right about here. Right about here, and Colin Gillespie is going to be over here on one of the wings. Eric Paschal is still going to be over this way. Quinerly's seeing more time. Maybe he's over here, and then Saddiq Bey does a great job to run the baseline. That's kind of one of the constants that we're going to see. So now Phil Booth, guarded by somebody on the other team, usually their best defender from a guard perspective. And what Phil's been able to do is beat this guy off the dribble, or at the very least shake him to be able to step back and hit a three, usually a very difficult-looking shot, or can get to the basket, finish strong off the hoop, or draw a second defender, find a guy like Eric Paschal, find a guy like Saddiq Bey cutting to the hole, and it's been Phil Booth running the show. And what's interestingly concept here is that the assists per game have not gone down while Phil Booth has been in this type of position. So although Phil Booth is not a pass-first guy, Villanova is still creating assists through the use of this offense. And frankly, what you're seeing is Phil Booth being the guy being tasked to take a guy off the dribble or take a tough shot at the end of the shot clock. But Phil, with the ball in his hands early, creates issues for opposing defenders. Booth here dribbling is going to force not just this defender, but perhaps a big man to come up and try to guard. Perhaps another guy from the wing to start to pinch. And all of a sudden, this creates floor spacing for Booth to do whatever with it that he needs to do in order to create the best possession for the Villanova Wildcats. In most cases, what that means is the ball's going up. And you're seeing a stark increase in Phil Booth's shot attempts per game. I mean, the game right before Big East play started, he had 6 field goal attempts, then 9, then 16, then 16, and then 14 against Creighton, but a very efficient 9 for 14 in those games. His role is changing, and it's affected Villanova for the better thus far. I'd say there's more high difficulty shots, but they have the right guy taking them. All right, I mentioned Jahvon Quinerly. Now on the defensive side of the ball, maybe the good followed by, let's say, the not so good here. Quinerly is a guy who I think still has a lot to learn in terms of his defensive alignment. So Creighton has the ball up here, ball handler guarded by Phil Booth. And Villanova was mixing up defenses between zone and man-to-man all afternoon. On this particular situation, it was man-to-man defense, and Creighton had the floor spread. Guy here, guy here, guy here, and a guy in here. Jahvon Quinerly is guarding this guy. And Quinerly, quite simply, is ball watching. And so as the ball comes over this way, this guy a back cut because Creighton had spaced the ball so well and because Quinerly, frankly, had no idea what was going on. Bounce pass here, easy layup. That's one possession, and it's completely unacceptable defense, not something that Jay's going to allow. Next possession is the one that I really have the biggest problem with. Villanova misses a shot on this end of the floor. Creighton comes down the floor here, and Quinerly is back. Sets up shop right here as the ball is taken into the middle. There's another guy running this way. Ball is passed here. He's coming right at Quinerly. Quinerly is outside the restricted area. And Quinerly sidesteps it. Quite simply, sidesteps it as this guy was about to run through him. So this guy finishes the layup for the Blue Jays. And Quinerly is over here now. And he kind of feebly does one of these. Trying to, assume it was a walk or try to get that call. It wasn't a walk, Jahvon Quinerly. What it was a soft defensive play and something that's completely unacceptable. It's why people don't like, gosh, what was that catcher's name? The Phillies catcher? I want to say Sal Fasano, but that wasn't it. The guy that moved out of the way. I should have done my research better. But anyways, Rod Barajas. That's who it was. It was a Rod Barajas play by Jahvon Quinerly. Unacceptable. Third possession. This is all in a row, by the way, in the first half. Quinerly is over here, and I want to say it was Cremo or Phil Booth, but Quinerly and Booth, let's just say it's Quinerly and Booth. And these guys switch. One guy pops out here, the other guy floats back here. So now Phil Booth is going to follow this guy. Quinerly doesn't switch. Easy catch, shot, and bucket because Jahvon Quinerly, possibly his head was out of the play from the last two possessions, but had no concept of team defense there and how best to switch. That's 3 consecutive possessions where Quinerly gave up easy buckets against Creighton, and so you want to know why he didn't play as much in the second half. That's why Villanova couldn't afford to give up easy possessions defensively, and you saw the way that Creighton shot in the second half as is. Final thing I want to talk about here tonight on the whiteboard is Cole Swider. Swider was guarding Crumple for Creighton. And here's Cole Swider inside. It was a run down the floor, kind of in transition. The ball made its way to the corner, and they enter it into Crumple. As Crumple catches, Swider almost has no idea where the ball is. Faces him, then turns his back so that Crumple has the ball with his back to the basket, and Swider has his back to Crumple's back. No idea what he was doing there. He got completely lost, and then Crumple backs him down with one power dribble and hits the shot. Swider's having some trouble here with this Villanova team, and I've said it a lot with this kid. He really has an opportunity to be one of the great shooters in this program if all goes well. He's got a sweet stroke. He's got a quick release. He's got great length to shoot over the top of smaller defenders, and he has an affinity for doing so. So far, though, at Villanova, everything seems a little bit rushed. The game is too quick for him, and I just think he's a little bit too soft at the moment for Big East basketball. That's what Shackleton can do for these guys in the strength and weight training program and what's going to need to happen for Cole Swider. But I've kind of abridged my expectations for him this year. I don't know that he's going to be a strong contributor at all this season until he increases his physicality. That's one thing that Sadiq Bey, we talked a lot about his struggles defensively during the Penn game, but one thing he does not lack is the physicality to compete at this level. Villanova asked him to guard the other team's big man, and whether he can do it effectively or not, he's battling the whole way and is making things difficult. I'm not seeing that out of Swider yet, and as a true freshman, that's okay. He's got time, but it's really a struggle. And you're kind of seeing issues amongst each of the freshmen. Quinerly, it's just his head doesn't seem to be in every defensive play. There was a soft move there by him on this side, backing away from a driver. Swider, I think, is a little bit soft, and then Bey just has trouble with assignments at times. And going back to that Penn game, that was his worst defensive performance. I give Penn credit for the complexity that they ran as well from an offensive set perspective. But I mentioned some good, some bad. That's what we do here on V's and O's. Appreciate everybody being with us, and we'll take you back to the studio after these messages.